What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a very special Angle Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football home over at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. I'm here with my buddy, Baby Carlos, and Mr. Joe Dirte. What's up, Joe?
What's up, baby? Yeah, Joe Dirt's just he's here, he's clocking in, he's ready to talk some football. Haven't had time to shave. It's been a couple weeks, so I thought I could pull off the Joe Dirt, my best Joe Dirt impression, and why not on Halloween? When all the freaks come out. We've got a freak show tonight for you guys. Actually, more like a trade freak show, but yeah, I'm excited to do this with you, Kyle, and glad that we put it off a night.
I tell you what, sometimes your premonition really precedes you. And man, we have a lot to get into. We're going to go through all these new moves and big trade deadline deals and new faces and new places with a little round of trick or treat. And Ron, we'll get started here in just a second. I'm going to tweet it out, let everyone know. If you're not joining us live on our YouTube channel right now and you're checking out the podcast, which I know a lot of you are, you really should be here, especially tonight. I mean, we got the hangover, we got Joe Dirt, we're feeling good. We got a nice little background for our show. But give me 1 second here, and we will be off and running. Just tweeting it out, Ron, if you want to share that. And
sure will.
Let me see here. We have our first trick-or-treater, Ron. His name is Jay Ajayi. He is leaving Miami. He's heading up to Philly. He's going to be an Eagle. The Dolphins got a 4th-round pick. So let's talk about the Jay Ajayi experience in Philly. Is this going to be a trick for fantasy owners, or is this going to be a juicy, juicy treat?
Oh, it's juicy. This is one of those treats where I get really excited to fill my grab bag full of, the good treats, not the tricks here. I want all those Hershey chocolate bars, Snickers bars, and I actually tried one of the Snicker peanut bars last night. And let me tell you, I enjoyed that almost as much as I enjoyed the Monday Night Football game. Getting to actually watch the game for a change, Kyle, because we're always on location here on Monday nights doing this live YouTube Angle Pursuit show. So, with Jay Ajayi, I think they really like what they saw. Peterson, the coaching staff, and the split squad practices preseason. They saw enough in Jay Ajayi to kind of believe that this is a running back that can possibly be a 3-down workhorse for them in that offense. And I mean, it's kind of like a complete 360 when you think about where he's coming from, in South Beach, and where he's going to in Philly. 2 teams going in 2 totally different directions. One of which has a pretty solid offensive line for the most part, in comparison to the Miami Dolphins offensive line, which is just absolute dumpster fire and with no quarterback. So I think that's kind of the key, is he's going to an offense now where, Carson Wentz is arguably playing, some of the best football out there as far as quarterbacks, and he's proving to be, that quick study and the maturation process for a second-year QB, which you don't really see that often. So he's a special talent. This is a special team. I think they're going to have a magical season. I think it's going to kind of rival, the Dallas Cowboys season they had last year in this conference. And I really think they're going to continue to play at a high level. So you think about it from the fantasy standpoint or perspective. So you have their buys coming up in week 10. I mean, you have to think that this kind of renders Blunt kind of, just a change of pace type running back. Wendell Smallwood, he's a Jag. Unfortunately, Ty Miller, love you. That was your guy. But let's be honest here. Let's be real. They didn't really have a back on their roster currently before this trade, that was capable of being that workhorse. And Jay Ajayi can fill those shoes. He can be that guy. If he picks up the offensive quick and that playbook quick, which I think he should be able to, this is a guy that's, I think, can have some, low RB1 type weeks in good matchups. And also, I think he's definitely more that high-end tier 2 type running back consistently week in and week out, starting week 11, coming out of that bye. So, and there's also, if you look at the matchups, he's got some really good matchups on paper. So just throw out his numbers for this year, throw all those stats out, and kind of look to go get him if you can right now. I mean, obviously now you're probably going to pay a premium no matter what format you're playing in. But he's definitely a guy that if you want to go try and acquire, especially if you need running back help.
I mean, yeah, it's an improved offense for sure. It's an offensive line that's having woes. They lost their left tackle, so that's not really what you're looking for. But it's probably better than what Miami had. I don't know. I'm indifferent on it. I don't know that it's really that big of an upgrade. I do worry about LeGarrette Blount still getting touches. I know it's really easy to get really excited, and obviously they just traded for him, so you'd assume that he would just kind of be handed the keys to the kingdom and let to go, run free. And obviously at running back, it's easier to kind of make that transition. There's not as much nuance to pick up, but LeGarrette Blount's actually been pretty solid. Obviously, Smallwood is probably going to be the guy to kind of lose the most here, and it was a guy that we thought maybe could be a flex option or a running back if you're desperate. I don't know. I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. I'm excited for Ajayi as an Ajayi owner in a couple places. I'm hoping by getting in this offense, he's got more opportunities to score touchdowns. He's got more opportunities to produce for his fantasy owners. But I'm gonna kind of proceed with caution. Obviously, if you own
Are you
him,
saying he's a trick then in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm saying in this case he's a trick because I think people are going to jump ahead of the gun and kind of give him more credit than we really should at this point. Like I said, obviously in a better offense, I still think he's a really talented player. I have some concerns about how much they throw or how much they run when they get in close, how much work he gets right off the bat, and how long that kind of takes. And sure, I mean, he could be a guy in the fantasy playoffs that really makes a big difference because he's kind of learning the offense. But at this point, I'm not going to go too crazy and assume that all is cake. Let's talk about back in Miami where Ajayi just left. Obviously, there's a void now, and they need a running back. Damian Williams is there. He's averaging about 20-ish catches per season over the last 3 years. Been a little bit of, if you're looking for a PPR type option, he could be an interesting play. But, 2.7 yards per carry behind that offensive line that Ajayi struggled in. Kenyon Drake's also there. But, Drake did see his numbers tick up last week, almost like they kind of had an assumption that maybe this trade could be coming. If you're looking to add one of these guys, obviously the waiver wire runs tonight in a lot of leagues. If you're listening to the podcast version, you might still be able to jump in on one of them, or maybe your waiver wire runs a day late. But Ron, are you interested in either of these running backs in Miami?
Oh man, this is just no. This is a situation to avoid. Quite honestly, I don't think their starting running back is on the roster currently. I could see them maybe reaching out to, on Ryan Matthews type, or even maybe bringing D'Angelo Williams back into the fold, off the streets. I mean, to me, this just screams, stay away. To me, Damian Williams, I guess if I'm completely desperate in, like I say, a 14-team league or maybe even deeper, maybe Damian Williams is the ad just because in PPR leagues he has, in limited, playing time over the last few years, he has shown the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. So that's a plus for him. But outside of that, I mean, you have to be completely desperate to be going out and spending any type of high percentage of your fab money on a guy like Damian Williams. So to me, no, not so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of owners that are definitely going to be looking for options, and unfortunately, this might be a backfield to target. And I think the Ryan Matthews call is interesting. I'm curious to see if they go out and get somebody. And I think as we kind of approach draft time, this could be a team that looks to add running back in the draft, whether that's Nick Chubb or somebody else. Let's go see if someone else is at the door, Ronald. And at the door is Mr. Kelvin Benjamin. This trade deadline was insane, Ronald, and Kelvin Benjamin is packing his bags and heading to the lovely, lovely town of Buffalo, New York. He's going to be a Bill. What was your, I guess, your initial reaction when you saw this trade? And yeah, well, like what did you get excited? You know, is this a trick, or are fantasy owners in line for a juicy, juicy treat?
This is 100% a trick, and I'm actually not going to answer the
Mm.
door because I'm trying to save all my candy for the kids that really deserve it. I don't want him coming in and deboning all my candy,
Oh no, don't
all
worry.
my chocolate.
He'll take care of the buffalo wings. He's gonna avoid the candy completely.
It's definitely a trick because again, this is like one of the worst landing spots possible for
What?
any receiver.
Drugs
Yeah, I
are
mean,
bad, Ronald. Stop
no,
taking them. You
I'm
stop
telling
taking
you, man.
the crystal meth. You're like trying to audition for a new season of Breaking Bad. This is an amazing trade. This is the great thing. Tyrod is a better deep ball thrower than Cam Newton. He's been better this season. If you look at the Bills' schedule down the stretch, I mean, they have one of the nicest like conclusions to their schedule. Tyrod is gonna feast. Tyrod finally has a weapon. I don't care what you say about Zay Jones and his uncatchable targets. Kelvin Benjamin is a stud. Let's see, who do they got? Oh, they got the Jets, the Saints, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Dolphins again. Oh my gosh, I am so freaking excited. I think he's gonna feast. I think Charles Clay comes back. If you own Tyrod Taylor, if you picked him up when I told you to pick him up, and you've been riding that, you're about to enjoy that ride because I think things are just gonna keep getting better and better for him. I love this for this team. They finally have a wide receiver one, and
I mean,
good
seriously though,
times are ahead.
you're calling him a wide receiver one,
Yeah,
but I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is a run-based offense, smash mouth offense, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Even after the fact they added Kelvin Benjamin to the fold, I mean, you're looking at Taylor, a guy who's probably averaging around 20 to 25 pass attempts a game. He's not gonna. Yeah, he throws a decent deep ball, but he just doesn't throw enough of them. And I don't know that. I mean, if Sammy Watkins really wasn't ever able to, you know, break out big, not break out bad, but break out big with this Buffalo Bills offense with Tyrod Taylor under center, I just don't see where Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, to me, he's kind of similar to Sammy, except he doesn't really have that breakaway type of take the top off the defense. He's not going to make those
right.
big time plays.
But
He's
he's
going to
also
be
gonna
more
catch
of
the
that.
ball and not get injured and be more
Right. I'm going to say
reliable.
he's a possession receiver, but that's kind of the same guy they tried to sign, or they did sign the offseason with Anquan Bolden. I mean, he's a possession receiver with really no speed. So I mean, again,
Calm
I don't,
down.
I'm not trying to compare the two because
Tyrod's last 3 weeks: 37 attempts, 33 attempts, 27 attempts, and he now has a good receiver. I love the Bills going forward. I think they're going to throw all over teams. That schedule sets up really nice, and maybe I'll be wrong, Ronald, or more likely you'll be wrong, and everyone will be happy. But
well,
I
I mean,
love,
he's still got a. There's a transition period with any player that's going to a new team, so
yeah.
it's not like he's just going to hit the ground running. As soon as they insert him into the starting lineup. But yes, I would agree he will be their top receiving option now. But also remember Charles Clay is going to be coming back from
Hmm.
his injury soon. Probably not. They play Thursday night, so I don't
Yeah.
think we'll see Clay on Thursday night. But
No.
again, when Clay's back, that's another target that
Yep.
Taylor latches onto a lot and will steal away potential targets from a guy like Kelvin Benjamin.
Yep. What about from the other side? War down in Carolina. Obviously, big bump for Devin Funchess. Do we think Christian McCaffrey keeps getting involved? Curtis Samuel. What are your kind of instant reactions to that side?
Well, yeah, I mean it's obviously a bump for Devin Funchess, but I mean the problem I have with this is I think that Devin Funchess is always he's kind of like that Randall Cobb type where he needs to kind of be playing alongside opposite a big receiving threat to kind of help take away some of that, draw away some of that coverage. So I think now that he's that number one guy, yes, the targets obviously spike, but how proficient is he going to be? I mean, is he going to be able to you know break coverage, gaining these type of separation, and with that increased attention that's being paid to him, I think that can negatively affect him in the long run and actually in the short term too. So to me, yeah, I mean, he gets a little bit of a bump. I think the rest of the guys, they need to be really careful with Christian McCaffrey being a rookie and how much they use him and kind of keep him fresh. So I think that's a guy that, yeah, gets a little bit more work, but they still will be cognizant of how much they're giving him on a week-to-week basis. But, yeah, maybe this says more about maybe a guy like Curtis Samuel maybe earning a larger role now that he's healthy. I think that's a guy that I would kind of buy low on and kind of bet on as far as, the rest of the season, him, having some games here and there where they showcase his skills and they make an honest effort to get the ball to him and let him do what he does best, kind of in the open field.
Is he a guy that in redraft leagues, if you have some flexibility at the back end of your roster, you're looking to add and see what happens with him?
I definitely think he's worth a shot because they can utilize him in many ways in that offense. I mean, they can line him up in the backfield and they can audible, move him around. So he plays that kind of slash role, and those type of players are, he's not Tyreek Hill, but we saw what Tyreek Hill did last year. Different situation, but again, I mean, he's that type of a talent. He's doesn't have that track speed that Tyreek does, but again, he may be more like a poor man's version of.
He's got some good speed.
Of Tyreek.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic on Curtis Samuel.
I'll say this: he's closer to Tyreek Hill than he is Tavon Austin as far as that goes.
Yeah. I think I'm with you there. And Greg Olsen is supposed to return, so if you have flexibility at the back end of your roster and you can add him, he's out there in a lot of leagues. I don't hate the idea of adding him either. Ronald, let's go back to the door. We got a little surprise trick-or-treater.
Trick-or-treat.
And at the door is Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. The San Francisco 49ers traded a second-round pick and landed their presumed quarterback of the future. I guess if you're, there's talks that he probably won't start this week or next. They're looking at kind of double-digit weeks for him to finally start. But if you're a Pierre Garçon owner in redraft, if you're a Marcus Goodwin, Carlos Hyde, George Kittle, does this give you some optimism kind of as the fantasy playoffs approach? Or with a new quarterback and a new system, it's probably going to be a situation to run and hide from? Is this a trick or is this a treat?
It's a tough one. I'm gonna go with treat, but I think the treat's it's gonna be one of those treats where it might take a little bit longer to become that treat. So at first it might be kind of tricky before it becomes a treat.
It's kind of like a Sour Patch Kid. First it's sour and then it's sweet.
Exactly. It kind of grows on you. It's like an acquired taste, and then the more you have, the more you like it. I think it says it all with them releasing Brian Hoyer. They were obviously way down on him.
Yeah, well, supposedly Hoyer was supposed to be in part of the deal, but because of draft compensation, they couldn't make it happen. So, for those of you hoping Brian Hoyer could become something somewhere, like in Superflex or deep 2 QB leagues or whatever, he sounds like he's going back to New England. So I wouldn't expect him starting. I know Arizona and Green Bay and a few other teams could use somebody like him. To start the rest of the way.
All he has to do is beat out a rookie quarterback from Iowa that really didn't even, in my opinion, deserve to be drafted. He's more like an undrafted guy. So I just don't see
I don't know why they did the CJ Beathard thing. It wasn't Hoyer's fault. They were in games when Hoyer was starting. The last 2 weeks, Hoyer has been on the bench, and they realized Beathard is terrible, and they've been destroyed by Dallas and Philly.
It makes you wonder if this is, in real life football terms, like we talk about a lot in fantasy football terms, but tanking, it almost has that feel where they really don't care. And Kyle Shanahan's safe, and he has 4 or 5 year, term here, and it's kind of like he has that long window to kind of pick and choose the players he wants to kind of mold this team into what he wants to, for the future now. So
Yeah.
I think that says more about that. And then having seen Jimmy G out there and knowing that he's definitely a type quarterback that can, came, out of the same, college as the likes of Tony Romo and at Eastern Illinois and Sean Payton. I mean, this guy broke all those guys' records in college when he was there at Eastern Illinois. So he's definitely a very talented player. And I think that this is a perfect kind of fit for him with the perfect coaching staff to kind of, again, help him learn the ropes and not be afraid to give him the opportunity to go out there and make some mistakes and kind of stick with them. Something we haven't seen from, say, Hugh Jackson in Cleveland with a guy like Kaiser. I mean, just let him go through his growing pains, take the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything between.
That team is such a mess. The one thing I will give the Niners credit is they wanted to see if Beathard could do it, and I think they realized pretty quickly that he can't, and that's why they made the trade. Did you hear the shenanigans the Browns? So the Browns were going to give a second and third more than the Niners gave for Jimmy G for freaking A.J. McCarron. And they have Deshaun Kaiser, who's the best. Like, I don't understand what they're doing, and they're not even giving him like half a game to try. And like, I don't know. The Browns are the Browns for a reason. They're going to continue.
The Browns are the Browns.
Yeah, they're just going to
exactly.
They're just going to keep doing this. So, yeah, I think I'm with you.
Let's put it this way, Kyle. Them giving up the second and third round pick probably wasn't too much, considering they probably would have swung and missed on those picks had they when they do use them, they're going to swing and miss anyway. So they might as well take a shot on a guy who has been sitting back and waiting for his opportunity. But obviously, it sounds like there was premature celebration going on before they even actually were able to make that trade official to the NFL. And I think that's even more laughable. Not only what they were willing to give up, as you noted.
Yeah, I think the John Lynch and the Niners need to send your Bears a fruit basket or something for that nice that Trubisky trade. The Niners got Solomon Thomas, Jimmy Garoppolo, were able to trade up for Reuben Foster, and still have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds of 2018. Thanks to your Chicago Bears. So appreciate that one out here on the West Coast. Let's keep going. Ron, we got some issues. We got some Ezekiel Elliott issues. So the ruling came down today that his suspension will be basically upheld. He's still seeking an emergency injunction to get a stay of his 6-game ban. So we'll see if he can get that through before Sunday. My expectation is no. I think we finally reached the end of the run. What about you? Do you think there's a good chance he still plays on Sunday?
No, I would put it at probably less than like 10%. It's just like you said. I mean, we all anticipated this. We knew that it was coming at some point. It was just a matter of when, how long they were going to be able to drag this process out with his lawyers and the whole, situation. And I was reading something maybe a couple of weeks ago about, the odds of him getting this stay and the judge and all that stuff. As a long story short, was like the odds were not in his favor. She more than often than not was ruling against any stays. So
I think that's Ezekiel
the odds
Elliott
were
in the
stacked
background.
against him.
I think it's
Ezekiel
Ezekiel
totally.
Elliott
My
in the
son is
background
very
crying.
upset about Zeke. He knows that Zeke, how much he means to me and my teams. But hey, anytime you lose a player like Zeke, there's going to be somebody else, next man up in the NFL, right?
So who is the next man? Is it Alfred Morris? Is it Darren McFadden? I know Jerry Jones came out today and said that Morris will be the feature back, the RB1. Where are you at with this backfield?
First off, I never listen to a word that comes out of Jerry Jones' mouth because it's complete, just utterly, just bull honky. Yeah, I mean, so anything he says, I kind of take the opposite of whatever he says. He said, Zeke wasn't going to get suspended. Well, he was wrong about that. He's saying that Alfred Morris is going to be the man in this backfield. I think he's wrong about that again. I think there's a reason why they kept Darren McFadden stashed away and inactive because he is like glass and he does fragile.
Preach.
But he's the guy though, man. Like he resembles he resembles Zeke. Like that's the game. He's
Well,
not Zeke. No one's
let's
Zeke,
calm
but
down
I
there.
think
Yeah.
he fits that role. He fits that role in that offense better. He's better suited to be in that role where in the pass catching downs he can be that guy. We know he can catch the ball. We know what he did a couple years ago, and when he had the opportunity to be the lead dog in that backfield. And yeah, the offensive line isn't as good. There's deficiencies there now
Yeah.
that weren't there a
But
couple years ago, but
yeah.
you're getting a fresh Darren McFadden, and hopefully, he doesn't slip on the soap in the shower and break something or tear something. But I have confidence and faith in him coming in there, and if not being the starter, the first week, I think he's going to be once he gets in the field. There's going to be the eye test will be the true test, and we're going to see that from him compared to Alfred Morris, who's 2 yards in a cloud of dust. I think that's kind of what Alf is.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Ron. I think this is a situation where they kept Darren McFadden under wraps. They kept him healthy and wanted to get him basically so they knew as soon as he was going to be the guy, they're going to throw him in. They're going to give him starters work. So I expect him to be the guy going forward. I think he's more involved in the passing game. I think this offensive line has gotten a lot better over the past few weeks. They're starting to run block better. Obviously, big games by Zeke. I think they're gonna be good. I think if I'm adding one of these guys, it's definitely Darren McFadden. I think I just like I get the Alfred Morris thing, but he's gonna stay in his same role as a part-time player that's gonna get spot carries. Maybe he gets 30% instead of 15%. But I think this is McFadden's job to hold on to, and I added him a couple weeks ago when it looked like he was Zeke was actually gonna get suspended. So I have him in a lot of places. I'll be playing him and seeing how that goes. But man, it's pay attention, keep an eye. Like obviously, if you can add one of these guys, I'm definitely doing it. Do you prefer?
I mean, if there's any silver lining, I'll just say, assuming that the suspension does stand, Zeke will be eligible to come back week 15 against the Oakland Raiders. So, I mean, if you're fortunate enough to make it to the playoffs, I mean, you should have Zeke back. I mean, it's a major buzzkill that you're going to lose him now. But like you said, if you were smart enough to go out there and get either one of these two guys, if available, and scoop them up early, that way you don't have to spend any fab money on them. That was the best move to make. And then you look at the schedule. They got Kansas City this week at home, at Atlanta week 10, come back at home for three games against the Philadelphia Eagles, the division leaders. Then they get the Los Angeles Chargers, should be a good matchup, and the Redskins at home. So yeah, I mean, to me there's some good matchups there for in play. So hopefully I'm right and it's McFadden, and hopefully this is a guy that can be a viable plug and play for you and kind of buy time until Zeke does come back in week 15.
Right, yeah, I don't think any of these guys are going to be league winners, but I think they can be guys that will be serviceable and be pretty solid while you're going through buys. Ron, let me ask you, if we'll put the Cowboys guys, we'll put the Dolphins guys, and I'll throw Alex Collins, who finally got a big workload on Sunday, 18 carries, into the mix. If you're looking at a running back for just this week, who's your number one option? Who's your number two option?
Are you saying just for this week to start, or are you talking more long term? If
you need a running back and you're adding a guy to play this week, who's your number one pick? Who's your number two?
I think this week I'm still going either Alf or McFadden if they're out there. Either one of the two I would take over Alex Collins. And it's more because of the offense and then the unknown, the complete unknown as far as Joe Flacco. I mean, if Flacco's out with the concussion, we know what that means for this offense. I mean, it wasn't like they were good with Joe Flacco. But again, this was a game in the primetime Thursday night game that kind of got out of hand early, and the game script just allowed Alex Collins to kind of have his best game this year, or actually not just this year, but as a pro. So I think a lot of things just kind of fell into. It was a perfect storm for him. They fell into place. and he even caught a few balls out of the backfield. So to me, I don't have enough faith in Alex Collins to put him out there because I don't think the offense without Joe Flacco is going to be able to sustain any drives. And if he's not scoring touchdowns, all you're really getting is probably the work between the 20s and maybe if you're lucky, he gets a touchdown, and that would pretty much salvage his day. But outside of that, yeah, you're depending on a player that is unproven. And despite how good he looked last week, I think last week is just kind of an outlier. It'll go down as an outlier for him this season.
I mean, Alex Collins has looked good for the past few weeks. Just it's been a matter of workload. This week they play at Tennessee. Titans are really bad on defense, and I think Baltimore, even if Ryan Mallett starts, can stay with them enough for Alex Collins to be the guy. But if you're looking for reliability, if you're looking for 15 carries or 75-ish yards and hope he finds the end zone, then I think Alex Collins is your guy. If you're shooting for a little more upside, Darren McFadden would be my answer. I like him a lot, especially in PPR. I think he can get involved in the passing game. But I like both those guys the most, and a big drop off to the other three after that for me. In terms of the Dak Prescott and the passing game and stuff, we expect that to still continue. Obviously, Dak's been really good. Dez has been pretty okay. Beasley's kind of been hit and miss. Jason Witten, you think Dak's still a guy that we're gonna roll out there even with Zeke suspended, right?
Oh yeah, I mean he's been that good, and I think if anything, this might force their hand a little bit more to have to throw a little bit more for him to be a little, take the reins, shackles off that offense and kind of throw it up a little bit more, be a little more aggressive. They played a little more conservative early in the season, and we've seen that kind of turn in the other direction as of the last few weeks with Dak and that offense. And another guy that I kind of like too, I think could have a role, could see more targets, is Bryce Butler. Yeah, he's really not a guy you're looking at adding or anything like that.
So. I really hope he starts seeing targets, but he really with Zeke out, he produces when he plays. He plays so minimally. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean it's when Dak throws the ball to him, he comes down with it and he makes big plays. Yeah. And the run after the catch is usually pretty good.
75 yards and a touchdown, and he catches 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's no consistency. Yeah, and he's just a complete just shot in the dark type bye-week play. But circling back real quick to that Ravens, I mean, about Woodhead, I mean, he is practicing. So if you threw him back into that kind of same bunch of running backs, I mean, how do you feel about Woodhead, Kyle? I mean, is this a guy that in PPR leagues,
he's a guy I was excited about coming in, and before the injury was getting a lot of volume. So if you're in a PPR league and you can stash him, I absolutely would. That's why I like Alex Collins for this week a lot more than I like him for the rest of the season. I think if I need somebody for the next few weeks, I think McFadden would be my answer for sure. But yeah, Danny Woodhead. I mean, okay. Let me ask you this. Greg Olsen, Danny Woodhead are both out there. You can add only one. Do you have a preference between the two?
I do. I'm going to go Greg Olsen just because I feel like this is a player that what you're getting when he's out there and he's healthy. He's going to be Cam Newton's number one trusted target. Yeah. Even if Kelvin Benjamin was there, I think he still would be that guy. And it's just a matter of health. And given the tight end landscape and with all the tight ends we've seen go down and get nicked up and be out, I think Jordan Reed's another guy that's out this week, according to what we're reading. So, I mean, there's just been a lot of them that have underperformed, that have been kind of streaky out there. So, a guy like Greg Olsen, I mean, Jackie Doyle's another guy out there. If he's floating around, I'd probably add him right now if you need a tight end. But if you're in a situation where you have a tight end one and he's already had his bye and you're just stashing for the future on a team that's headed towards the playoffs in the right direction, yeah, I think Greg Olsen's like that number one kind of safest ad that you can make this week outside of probably a guy like McFadden, who I think is going to get a lot of run.
It sounds like David Johnson's looking more and more like he's not going to play the rest of the way. If you're, would you rather stash Danny Woodhead or David Johnson the rest of the way?
Oh, I mean, if you don't have an IR slot, I guess right now both these guys are injured, so we're talking about
Well, even
two
if you
players that are
let's say
kind
you
of.
have one IR spot and they can both qualify, and you're looking at, okay, my team is pretty solid. I have a chance at making the playoffs. I have a chance at, I'm going to need a running back down the stretch. Dave, and we'll say full point PPR. Are you keeping David Johnson, or are you dropping him to pick up Danny Woodhead and putting Woodhead in your IR spot?
My thing is, I can never really fully endorse or condone dropping a player of David Johnson's talent, especially if you're in a situation where you're high up in the standings or in the top third of your league. To me, it's worth holding on to him, holding out hope that he will come back for the playoffs, just like Zeke, for his respective owners. So to me, if you're in that situation, keep him. If you're just dying right now at running back and you're kind of a middle of the pack type team, I can't say that I would totally object to going out and getting Woodhead in hopes that he's back, in a viable starting option for you as soon as maybe next week. So in that case, yeah, I mean, it's a tough call, and I would hope that you have someone else on, at the end of your roster, end of your bench, I should say, that you could part with before, dropping a guy like David Johnson, or maybe send out. I was going to say send out a trade offer and try and trade David Johnson for, you're probably not going to get much right now in a redraft, but at least try and dangle him out there and see if there's a contender out there that will give you a player that's startable in the meantime.
Marshawn Lynch or Danny Woodhead? Half point
Ugh,
PPR.
I'm done with. I'm another guy that I'm okay with just admitting that I was 100% wrong. Marshawn Lynch, he's dead to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
It took long enough.
You were wrong about Eddie Lacy, so we're both wrong about two running backs that we believed in.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm done with Lynch.
I was plenty wrong this year. The Marshawn Lynch thing was so predictable. It's not even funny.
It's not even on a rundown, but I'll take it a step further now that you mentioned the Lynch's name and had to do that to me. But I actually like what I saw from DeAndre Washington this past week, and I know he didn't get a lot of carries, and he's not going to be a guy that's going to go out there and get 15 carries a week for you. But I mean, my God, if this guy's catching in a PPR league, if he's catching 6 or 8 passes a week, I don't care what he's getting, as far as carries go. But that to me is valuable in PPR leagues. So he's another guy I would throw into the mix and kind of say, as far as this list goes, I might actually like in PPR leagues, I would put him ahead of Alex Collins right now as far as a pickup. I know you're Team Richard, so
yeah,
it's a tough sell.
I'm always Team Richard, but it is interesting. I don't hate it. Let's talk about the Brockett ship. They have a re-engaged launch sequence on the Brockett ship. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. RIP all of your Broncos. C.J. Anderson, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders when he gets back. This offense is just going so far backwards, and Trevor Siemian's been a mess, and I know this is where Ron's going to be like, well, what about Paxton Lynch? He is also atrocious at quarterback. Put Brian Hoyer or Colin Kaepernick on that team and let them actually be good. But anyways, Ron, tell me about why Paxton Lynch should be on our radar.
I mean, to me, again, it's kind of process of elimination and deduction. I mean, the guys that are ahead of him right now on the depth chart are hashtag not good. I mean, we know what we've seen.
So is Paxton Lynch.
Yeah, but you know what? They did invest.
Their quarterback room is just the flaming dumpster.gif. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, but they need a spark. They need something. It doesn't matter what it is. They need something to change for this team. I mean, Benny Fowler last night.
Put Devontae Booker at quarterback.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Run some wildcat formations there and see what you can do with Jamal Charles and Devontae Booker. I'm with you, but no, in all seriousness, I mean, this is a guy, Paxton Lynch, that, I think what he was lacking was kind of like between the ears. He had all the talent in the world and still does and could probably make any throw on the field, but he's just not been battle tested. I would hope in 2 years in that system, he at least knows the damn playbook and can at least go out there and, be able to call some audibles and, have a little bit of, his teammates have a little bit of confidence in him under center. But I just think now's the time to make that change. He's not 100% healthy now, so it won't be this week. But when Brock and Roll completely just combust this week under center, then there's going to be nobody left to turn to except the aforementioned
Chicken
Paxton
palm
Lynch.
you take so good. Get Peyton
What
out
do
of
they
the
have
booth.
to lose, Kyle?
Bring Peyton Manning
Kyle.
back. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, no, this team's a mess. I'm running away. Before we talk about the rest of the waiver wire, obviously you should be reading my column each and every week on fakepigskin.com. Let's talk about our friends over at Draft. Ron, I've been playing a ton of NBA DFS over with Draft. It's awesome. There's like 3-man and 6-man leagues, and you can pick like, oh, I picked up LeBron or I picked up Steph Curry. Obviously, you can play football, and it's super fun. You get a quarterback, you get 2 running backs, you get 2 pass catchers. Only one person's going to own Le'Veon Bell. Only one person's going to own Drew Brees, which makes it a lot more fun, a lot more, it kind of weeds out all the main guys that are doing their, algorithms to figure out the best players at prices. And it's super quick, super easy to draft. And with our promo code FakePigskin or playdraft.com/FakePigskin, you get a free $3 entry into a contest, and you can use it for hockey, you can use it for NBA, you can use it for this weekend's NFL slate. You can also deposit $5 and get a year of Fake Pigskin Elite, which has all of our premium DFS content and all other premium content on fakepigskin.com. So go sign up today, playdraft.com/fakepigskin, or download the app, put in our promo code FakePigskin. Enter, have fun. Notorious KRO is my username on there. Challenge me. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's hit the waiver wire, Ronald. There is a lot to get into, and we'll start with Mr. Juju himself. Juju Smith-Schuster went off this week. Obviously had the 95-yard touchdown. Obviously was pressing 200 yards and a tutty. Yes, add him. But also, I think people we were playing a little trick or treat. I think Juju's putting a little trick on some of the fantasy community if they think they can throw him in and get these kind of monster performances every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of fool's gold, but I mean, the thing about Juju is his role has gradually, every week we've seen more and more Juju, and he's obviously doing it in practices and showing that. So, I mean, he's coming off his biggest, he had 10 double-digit targets here against Detroit. I mean, I think that kind of bodes well. Yeah, I know Martavis Bryant was out for that game.
And it was also Darius Slay, who we've talked about a few times on this show, was on Antonio Brown most of the day, so that definitely made things easier for Juju.
I mean, in a year where the rookie wide receivers have, just not even shown up. I mean, Juju's been that one bright spot.
We're looking at you, Corey Davis. We're looking at you, Mike Williams. Looking at you, John Ross. Yeah. No, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, but this is a guy that can be a solid flex option, wide receiver 2-3, kind of the rest of the way. I mean, they got matchups against the Colts, the Titans, the Packers. Opportunity is going to be there for sure.
For sure. I mean, this is a guy, again, 7 of 10. He caught 7 of 10 targets against those Lions and pretty decent secondary. But, again, the 2 weeks prior to that, he had 3 targets in each of those games. Yeah. So it's been one of those things where if Big Ben gives him the targets, throws the ball to him, he's catching it more often than not, and he's doing big things after the catch. So obviously he showed that in in primetime lights on Sunday night. So, yeah, he's definitely a guy that I think if you need a receiver, he's got to be at the top of the list this week to go out there and blow your wad of fab budget money. Just blow it. Get this guy on your team because he could make that type of, similar to Odell Beckham when he made that impact as a rookie in the second half. Not saying he's going to do it, but hey.
Yeah, no, I'm not encouraging.
I would say pump the brakes, but I'm pumping the brakes on his bike. The bike that he lost and found.
I'll give you 2 receivers that I'd rather add over Juju Smith-Schuster for the rest of the way. First one, Sterling Shepard, less than 60% owned on Yahoo. He was expected to return right before the bye, had to miss that game. Had the bye week. He's healthy. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. I know it's Eli Manning, but the targets will be there. The volume will be there. And if you're looking for a guy that can be a reliable option on a week-to-week basis, I think I would much rather own Sterling Shepard than Juju.
In PPR leagues, I agree with you, but I still see, rest of the season, I think we could see Juju still outscore Shepard as far as, touchdowns go. Touchdowns, that's the lifeblood of fantasy football, and I think that, again, he's going to score a lot of them if he's given those opportunities.
Antonio Brown's going to score touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell's going to score touchdowns. Juju, maybe. I will gladly I will gladly take Sterling Shepard over Juju Smith-Schuster the rest of the way in any format.
Here's the thing. I'm a biggest Sterling Shepard fan. I love Sterling Shepard.
You do?
To me, Eli Manning is just not good, and I know that he's the number 1 receiver now.
Breaking news. Ben Roethlisberger's not much better. If he's even better.
I'm still taking Big Ben over Eli. I know it's probably closer than we might think it is, but again, I'm buying into the offense with, more weapons. I think the attention that's going to be paid to Sterling Shepard is also going to be one of those things that could, affect him negatively in some matchups. So that's another thing to think about is who else is going to really beat them through the air on that team. And I don't think there's another guy that really, outside of Evan Ingram, that is going to threaten opposing defenses with the big play capability that a guy like Sterling Shepard is more of a Randall Cobb type player who, again, I think he needs to coexist with another big-time receiver opposite him.
Ben Roethlisberger has 4 touchdowns over the past 4 weeks. Ben Roethlisberger, 317, 224, 252, 312, 216. Those are his last 5 yardage performances.
And guess who's caught 2 of those 4 touchdown passes in the last 4 weeks?
Juju, baby!
Juju. Go ride that bike, Juju.
Go get him,
son.
Lock
it up, too.
Go get him, son. Another receiver that I actually kind of like more than Juju, especially if you're looking for a little more stability on a week-to-week basis. Mohamed Sanu, 17 targets over the past 2 weeks. Caught 12 of them, hit 65 yards and 74 yards in each of the last 2 weeks. Found the end zone last week. And I know the Falcons' offense is kind of a mess, and they don't know really what they're doing. The one thing I do know is Matt Ryan's going to be throwing the ball, and Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu are going to be the guys catching the ball. So if you're looking for stability and a little more reliability, Mohamed Sanu over Juju might be an interesting way to go.
Screw that. I'm swinging for the fences. I'm hitting the home run. Give me Juju and Shepard over
you're striking
Sanu. He's just not. He's not sexy enough for me, man. Joe Dirt. He has a standard.
Yeah, you gotta.
Sanu keep him sexy.
You gotta keep him sexy. Come on, Carlos. It's okay. I'd rate them Shepard, Juju, Sanu. But if you're looking for more stability, I would go Sanu over Schuster. Let's talk some tight ends, Ronald. I want to throw out a few names. Obviously, we talked Greg Olsen earlier, so that's a name I wanted to target. Obviously, Jackie Doyle, about to walk into a great opportunity, coming off a monster game where he had 12 targets. He had 12 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown. Looked great. Has 32 targets over the past 3 weeks. I know the tight end position has been ugly. I know that it's really easy to pencil him in for a nice week here. I think Doyle's a must-add if you need tight end. The Delaney Walker thing is pending. I talked to Jim White of the Tennessee and he said it's still too early to see kind of what he might do. If Delaney's out, I love Jonnu Smith. And then you threw a tight end in here, Mr. C.J. Fedorowicz. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, the Fedorowicz is an interesting case because he has been practicing already for over a week with the team. Mm-hmm. And, anything that Deshaun Watson touches or is attached to, it just
It's
turns into
ridiculous.
gold.
It's
So
ridiculous.
for me,
All Will Fuller does
yeah,
is catch touchdowns. I told you guys about him.
it's the Watson effect, bro.
Ugh.
I'm telling you,
I
CJ
told people to
Fedorowicz
add him.
is going to be worth an ad. He's a guy that I would put him right after, the aforementioned Jackie Doyle. Obviously, he's a guy you want to pick up now, and then Greg Olsen. And I think Fedorowicz is kind of right there after those two guys as far as tight end ads. And you mentioned it, good point with Delaney Walker, being kind of uncertain, questionable this week to play. So I think you need to make an ad if you're a Walker owner. You got to add someone, just in case.
And Jonnu Smith's a nice name where it's a direct replacement. So you can wait and see if Walker's going to play. And if Walker plays, then you play him. And if not, throw in Jonnu Smith. He's a guy that they've already found ways to get him the ball. So obviously they like him, they trust him, and he's scored 2 touchdowns already. So definitely a guy that I like and a guy that I'm adding if you need tight end help. Let's talk about the Broncos running game. Your Devontae Booker obviously got the touchdown, got back to into swing, 6 carries, 40 yards, an impressive 6.7 yards per carry. But this is a situation where C.J. Anderson is still their best running back, and I know you're going to be like, well, he's going to get injured one of these days. Well, maybe. And maybe, if you're looking to add a running back, kind of as Damien and I have talked about for Saturday night as Sunday approaches, I don't think he's a horrible option because Anderson is prone to injury, but 15 carries, 78 yards, 5.2 per carry. Jamal Charles is still involved. They ran all over Kansas City in a game where I don't know how they lost by so much. But talk to me about why you're adding Devontae Booker.
Well, if you were actually watching the game last night, which hopefully you were, Kyle, because you had that golden opportunity.
I was binge watching Stranger Things because that's what I do.
Okay, well, I won't hold that against you, but I will say I was watching the game for the first Monday night in a while, and with no distractions whatsoever. And I forget who made the comment, but they said that Devontae Booker, had he not been injured, would have been the top starting running back to enter the season. I don't know how much truth there is to that.
That's bullshit. That is complete and total garbage.
I will say this much: they really like Devontae Booker. They have shown that they trust Devontae Booker when they were inside, the red zone. The running back of choice on Monday night was Devontae Booker, not C.J. Anderson, not Jamal Charles. He was the guy in there. And then you look at the carries, what he did. I mean, C.J. Anderson had 15 for 78, over 5 yards a carry. That's great. But on the flip side, you had Booker with only 6 carries, and he was able to put up 40 yards at 6.7 per carry and get the touchdown. So. And then I look at kind of the longest run of the game for them, a 26-yard run by Booker. So he looked like he had juice. He looks like he's 100% healthy now. And then on top of that, I think the nail in the coffin for me is his involvement in the passing game, which, yes, I know C.J. Anderson's going to do that too. But, I mean, you look at the targets last night. I mean, he had 3 targets, and he caught all 3 of them. So he's very proficient in that phase of his game. And I think that's something, again, we're talking earlier about this team needing some sparks. Wherever they can find these sparks offensively, that's what they need to do. So I think, again, a couple of weeks ago, we saw him do it against the Giants with 4 catches for 78 yards. So he's averaging about over 3 catches a game over the last 3 weeks since he came back from this injury. And that's on limited snaps, playing kind of like that, third role as far as the running backs are concerned. So I think he's just knocking on the doorstep of possibly unseating C.J. Anderson later on. And it may not even take an injury, Kyle. How about that?
Yeah, drugs are bad, Ronald. I want to throw out a couple receivers before we get out of here. Corey Davis, I think he's actually going to play this week. And Paul Richardson, who's just been beasting, had 2 touchdowns, probably should have had 3, honestly, against Houston. 2 deeper league finds. I think they're both worth ads if you need wide receiver help. And but would you put those guys after the trio we talked about earlier, Ron?
I'm obviously anti-Sanu. I'm anti-Sanu, so yeah. I'm going to go with both these guys. I think Richardson is so underrated. He's not getting any attention. I don't know if it's because he plays out in the Northwest or what the deal is, but yeah, he's just been doing it. He's been scoring touchdowns. He's great complementary piece opposite Doug Baldwin. He's a completely different receiver when it comes to that matter. But I love what I'm seeing for Paul Richardson. I think this is his breakout year. He's, again, finding the end zone and making big plays, in his 4th year in the NFL. So, again, he's a sneaky ad, but one that I think that you could spend less fab money to acquire and still get, fairly consistent results out of this guy. So, yeah, I like him, and I feel like Corey Davis, he's kind of the great big unknown right now as far as we know the talent level where it's at. The only thing I would say is the offense. If you need a receiver now, you need somebody this week, I think I'm going to agree with you. I think Schuster's at the top of my list. Sanu's got to be up there too because he does have that guaranteed role. And then I think for me, it's going to be Richardson as the third guy. And I think Corey Davis is more of that stash for a week or two from now to kind of see how it plays out if you're in a situation where you don't need a receiver right now. You just want to sit on him. You're already in a good spot as far as your division or your record as far as playoffs are concerned, and you just can afford to take some, risks and go after a young, talented receiver who, again, really we have no idea what to expect from him.
What about Sterling Shepard in that mix? Where does he rank? Is he right after Schuster before Sanu?
I'd put him actually right there with he's like it's like a 1A 1B with Schuster and Shepard. I think again it depends on who do you have more faith in, Kyle, Eli Manning or Big Ben. I think we're both on opposite sides of the fence, but yeah I think those two guys got to be at the top of that list.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there for sure. All right, Ronald, this was a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of your Halloween. I'm going to go watch the rest of the World Series. Hopefully the Stros close it out and beat those stinky Dodgers. For Joe Dirt, for Alan, for Baby Carlos, we will talk to you guys down the road.